Hey friends, this video will give you an incredibly simple but powerful technique to add to your toolkit of things you can use to lose weight or successfully change any habit that you would like to change. And it's not rocket science. All it requires is disciplined, simple use. And when I say discipline, I don't mean like knock down, drag out, really hard to do type of discipline. In fact, this discipline is just remaining mindful of and tactically controlling and using and employing how your mind already works, optimizing and making your mind work for you rather than against you. The simple technique is powerful and will help you in any personal growth and success that you're after. Now, I'll be totally candid here when I get to my personal specific example of how I'm using it now at this point in my life to get more healthy, to drink less alcohol, and to lose some weight. Well, my particular details will be kind of gross, but you know what? They're incredibly effective. They're powerfully effective, but they're kind of gross. And that's all that matters, is not that they're gross, that they're effective. So let's suppose the personal change you're currently after is to lose weight, because that's what I'm using it for. You want to change your diet to improve your health in general. Isn't it true that the results in our lives come from our behaviors and actions, most especially from our habitual behaviors and actions? And our behaviors and actions, habitual or otherwise, come from our beliefs and stories. Our stories being how we imagine our beliefs, that is, how we see, hear, and feel our beliefs in our imaginations and within our bodies. So to change our lives, we must change our behaviors and actions. And to change our behaviors and actions, we must change our beliefs and our stories. Stories, again, I want to emphasize this. Stories are how we see, hear, and feel our beliefs and our perceptions. So, using the food example, let's suppose that you want to stop eating cake because you want to be thinner and healthier, but you love cake, especially, let's say, chocolate cake. Let's imagine a typical moment when you have to give in to craving for chocolate cake. What's the process involved? You suddenly smell and taste chocolate cake in your imagination, right? Perhaps you see it too. Your brain is flooded with adrenaline because this excites you. It's flooded with dopamine because you imagine the great pleasure of eating the cake. And perhaps even serotonin increases because of the sense of well-being chocolate cake creates within you. Yet, you also have the beliefs, grounded in fact in this particular case, that the massive amounts of empty carbs and sugar in the cake is devastatingly bad for your blood sugar, your body, and for your all-around health. Equally bad, caving into your craving and actually eating the cake will be devastating to your self-identity and your self-confidence. So, you have this torrent of competing neurochemical and psychological phenomenon going on in your brain and in your body. And to make matters worse, this increases probably the probability that you'll capitulate to your urge, your lower urge, and eat the cake, because your inner conflict and stress compels you to act in a manner so as to bring immediate relief. And what greater and more immediate relief than the pleasure, the escape, the gratification of eating chocolate cake? But what if you could short circuit and master this process? Well, you can short circuit and master this process. And in doing so, you can optimize your mind, your brain, and your body so that they work for your highest values and identity and goals, rather than working against them. More on that in a minute, but first, let's dispel a myth and a common cop-out, an excuse that people use. That myth being that people that are more successful than us, successful at anything that's important to us, that these people are either just lucky or they're intellectually superior to us. This myth is almost always total BS. It's not true. So how are successful people different from us? Again, success in anything we want. Too often people do view highly productive, fulfilled, and successful people as either just lucky or more intelligent and capable, and rarely are they. They're simply more focused, passionate, purposeful, and disciplined than other people. they do things that most people aren't willing to do, or at least they do these things habitually and at a high level. And most people refuse to do this. Most people give in to the transitory urge and escape of pleasure. Simple fact is that becoming our greatest selves is a lifetime journey. It's a journey that only ends when we end. And success itself takes time and effort. There's an awful lot of hard work, frustration, pain, and disappointment between here and there. And as in being our greatest self never ends, neither does the path to success. Sadly, most people accept life's inevitable setbacks, frustrations, and disappointments as a terminal verdict. But as Winston Churchill said, success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. In a recent video on my website, I shared with you an experience of significant personal change, how I quit smoking. It was a 10-year habit that I quit in my early 20s. In the video, I shared the technique I used to quit the habit, and it was genuinely one of the easiest things I have ever in my life done. Now, it's something that I habitually use and with great success. And it's not rocket science, but it is a mixture of science and art. The sciences of neurology and psychology and the art of mastering and employing the power in our minds and tactically and strategically using this power and the power of feeling and emotion. You know, I've been very fortunate in many ways, and one of those ways is that I was never able to gain weight. My entire life, I could eat anything and everything and in copious amounts and simply not gain weight. I've never been able to gain weight. That is, until the past few years. I eat a very healthy diet. Very healthy, that is, except for one thing. Up until a couple of months ago, I probably never went a single day in my life without eating chips. Potato chips, corn chips, and especially potato chips, and more potato chips. Each and every day, I would have chips. What's more, the past couple of years, I got into the habit of drinking every evening. Not a whole lot, but it started with one drink a day. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", about 215 pounds. So one drink quickly became 2 drinks, and then sometimes 3 drinks, and rarely 4 drinks. I become incredibly quiet and cerebral and sleepy, actually, when I drink. Now, normally I'm a passionate and engaged person. So here's the point of this video. Being unproductive, sleepy, disengaged is unacceptable to me. Back to my earlier point, a couple of months ago I realized a couple of things. First of all, my youthful girlish figure had surreptitiously abandoned me a few years ago. The same body that used to be able to eat chips each and every day can no longer. It's gone. And while I still love the taste of chips, boy do I love the taste of chips, I hate what they do to my body. Even more, I hate what this does to my self-identity and my self-respect. What's more, while I love the relaxing feeling and great taste of good red wine or good alcohol, I hate the additional weight that gives me, and I hate also the relatively disengaged and unproductive state that it puts me in. And if I drink it every evening, that's not acceptable. So something had to change. I hated the extra fat that I developed on my stomach and on my neck. What's more, becoming a disengaged space cadet every evening was really unacceptable to me. But it's a tough habit I'd gotten into. Eating chips, having 2 or 3 time drinks a night, it all tastes good and it's fun. They'd become my habits, my lifestyle. The one habit was a 50-year-old habit. The other was only a couple of years old. But I realized I need to use that thing that we all must employ when we make significant personal change. And that thing is what? Imagination. For my entire life, whenever I think of potato chips, I can taste their salty, perfect potato-ness in my tongue, and I crave them. They're good. Well, if I wanted to lose weight, and I did, I obviously had to change this. So I changed it. But eating some chips aren't bad for you in low moderation. And alcohol in moderation can actually be good for you. Well, for me, and let's be honest here, probably for you too. trying to eat or drink that which we most love, but in extremely small amounts each day, regularly, is almost certainly a self-deceiving recipe for failure. Because it's really hard to limit ourselves to only 2 or 3 potato chips a day. And it can be hard to limit ourselves to only maybe a quarter or half a glass of red wine every day. It's too easy for us to justify the supposed one night, one-off exception and say, well, not 2 or 3 potato chips today. I'll have a bag today, but just today. Well, pretty soon that becomes a bag every few days and then a bag every day again. You see where I'm going? So I decided to make a new rule for myself, a rule that's set in stone and non-negotiable, non-transient. There are no one-off, just today exceptions. I created a new rule that I can drink and eat chips only on weekends. This means alcohol only from Friday evening at 6 p.m. to Sunday evening at 6 p.m. This way I get the great taste and effect, but this leaves 5.5 evenings a week where I have no alcohol in my system, or very little on one evening, and I'm therefore more focused, engaged, and productive with life and with work during those evenings. I limit myself with chips only Saturday and Sunday, and not necessarily every Saturday and Sunday, by the way. I do this for 2 reasons. First of all, if I allow myself to eat chips on Friday evening through Sunday evening, say before or after 6 p.m., depending on the day, that means that I'm eating chips during 3 complete eating cycles in a week, rather than only 2 per the weekend. And I want to limit myself to only 2 cycles for chips at the very most. The fewer the chips in, the fewer the pounds on, and the healthier the total body. However, with alcohol, because I don't overdrink, I never get drunk, having some alcohol 3 evenings a week isn't negative, certainly not like having chips 3 days a week would be. It's important to recognize and have rules and structure, really important. They're necessary for success in anything. So I created new rules with definitive, non-negotiable, non-alterable structure. It makes clear exactly when I can eat chips or drink. It's perfectly clear and it's non-negotiable. But this alone doesn't change our desire, does it? It only changes our rules. And there are going to be plenty of times that we want to violate those rules. For me, this is especially difficult with chips. I've done it for 50 years. I love chips. It's so easy and natural for me to just grab a bag of chips. After all, I have done it for 50 years, virtually every day for those 50 years. And I haven't completely cut them out like I did with cigarettes. It's actually easier to totally stop something completely than it is to tease yourself by denying it most of the time, but not all of the time. So to conquer this demon, I use one of the steps I used to quit smoking that I shared with you in the other video. I use it though in a less intense and more tactical, not so strategic way. I decided that whenever I get the urge to get some potato chips during the week, I won't give myself a conscious moment to imagine their incredible taste in my mouth. Doing so only leads to bad things. So as soon as I think about it any time during the week, I immediately interrupt that thought and the sensation, the imagination, the taste, and the feeling in my mind, and I replace it with something I'm going to share with you in a minute. I use my imagination to create the opposite experience from the experience I've had for 50 years whenever I think about potato chips. So what I did was ask myself, what would be really gross to eat? I knew that if I could identify this, I could use that to vaporize my daily cravings for potato chips. And be forewarned, like I said earlier, this is going to be gross, but this is really important and powerful. For me, when I asked myself, what would be totally gross to imagine eating? Well, the first thing that came to mind was, and I'm sorry about this, but I've got to be honest, it was puke, throw up. And it gets worse, because I want as potently powerful a tool as possible. So I asked myself, is there anything else other than just puke? Because that's gross. I can't imagine that. The answer came back, not just puke, but a dog's puke, and it gets worse. I used to have a German Shepherd. I love you and I miss you, Spiky. He was a great dog. Spiky loved to eat his shit. Sorry, but Yeah, he loved to eat his shit, and German Shepherds are known for that. So now when I think about potato chips, I immediately replace the taste, the sensation of luscious, life-altering, euphoric potato chips with the visual, the smell, the taste, and the sensation in my mouth of puke. And not just puke, but a dog's puke. And not just a dog's puke, but a dog's puke immediately after he's eaten dog crap. And not just immediately after he's eaten dog crap, but do you know how sometimes dogs throw up and then they eat their throw up immediately afterwards? And I'm going to stop there. That's what I use. This has been so effective for me without me trying to use it as intensely or permanently as I showed you how in the other video when I quit smoking almost 40 years ago. And I've never, if you haven't seen that video, by the way, from a nanosecond 40 years ago, I have had no desire whatsoever for a cigarette. It's the most repulsive possible thing to me. So I've tried to limit this technique on potato chips because eating chips 1 or 2 days a week isn't so bad, and I want to allow myself to have this treat. I don't want to totally extinguish it. While I purposely tried to mute this technique with potato chips so I don't completely lose my taste for chips, this technique is so effective that I have had potato chips only once or twice in the past couple of months because my mind is automatically coming to this association. Remember, up until about 2 months ago, I've eaten potato chips probably just about every day of my life for 50 years. With alcohol, while staying away from it can be a bit of a struggle some evenings, it's much easier for me than staying away from potato chips. With alcohol, keeping in alignment with my self-identity and with my personal standards in part of being self-disciplined and healthy and lean, a person who's highly productive and engaged, this provides enough incentive for me not to drink every night anymore. So in summary, know yourself. Maybe you're the kind of person that can only eat 3 chips a day and never more, though I doubt it. Most people can't. You might be a person who can drink half a glass of red wine a night and no more. Know yourself. Know what you're working with. Don't fool or delude yourself. Be honest and work with who you are, including, and perhaps most especially, including your passions, your purpose, your highest self-identity, and your values. Not just with the mechanics of your habits that are your comparatively superficial, maybe motivating forces. So I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and to my website, ChristopherBabson.com. That way you won't miss any of my regular free training videos. If you have any experiences with these or other techniques, or if you have any questions or positive comments, please leave them and I'd love to enter a dialogue with you. Live, love, and succeed with passion, purpose, and personal power, my friends.